Where's the greatest cash on cash returns on commercial real estate right now, right? Is it industrial, where you rent out to factories? Is it commercial plazas, mixed use, maybe a little bit of residential on top and retail or office space on the main floor? The answer is pseudo real estate. It's including real estate. And that's the sale of businesses. We can look at these titles really quickly. These are just two titles that popped up in the last sort of 8 or 9 days. Tsunami of small business owners planning to exit, putting $2 trillion on the line. 3 in 4 small business owners plan to exit their companies in the next decade. Next title, Canada's graying economy needs more employee ownership, right? Add retiring entrepreneurs to the list of economic existential threats posed by Canada's aging population. Baby boomers wanting to sell their businesses, and their only option is to sell it to their kids, and their kids don't want it, and they don't know what to do.
Everybody, welcome to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. My name is Adriana Ostapenko. I own Ace Properties, an asset management company that operates out east, mostly in New Brunswick. We have about 130 units under management right now, 30 plus which are in development. I'm also very, very passionate about helping other investors build wealth for real estate, as well as education and inspiration. I'm here with Rhys. I'm very excited to be sitting down with you today, Rhys. I know you're a killer realtor out in Windsor, very investor focused. It's such an incredible market. There's a little bit of there's been this buzz about Windsor over the last, 4 or 5 years, especially. So I'm so curious to dive into the market with you and find out more.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So for those of you that don't know me, yes, I run a real estate team in Windsor, the Vanguard team, 7 real estate agents, all with their own income property focused niches. And everybody's been on the team between 5 and 18 years. We've been doing this for a while. We're all investors ourselves. So we have the property managers and the contractors, et cetera, to refer you guys. We got rid of the bad ones a long time ago because we learned on our own properties, right? On behalf of the clients. We're your guinea pigs down here in Windsor.
I love that we get to teach from the hardships and experience that we go through.
Yeah. Well, I'm not glad, but you have to do it, right? It's part of the process. So, so if anybody ever wants to get a hold of us, I believe the email address is on every slide. If it's not, it's at the bottom anyway. Peter, our producer, puts it in the description underneath the video on YouTube. All right. Adriana, if you want, I'll start with the real estate stats of the month of December for the Windsor Essex market.
That sounds great.
All right. So like all markets right now, we're seeing a massive slowdown in activity, right? So it's not just the number of sales. There's just like last January, there is a shortage of listings. So my team, actually, the good news is we're getting a lot of buyers again. And I've had 3 of my agents out of 6, right? I'm the 7th. 3 of the agents out of 6 in the last week, unbeknownst to each other, have all come to me saying, oh man, we're short inventory. I got nothing to sell these people. I got to wait, and they're asking each other if they got anything coming up, right? And they're digging deep into their existing client bases just to find listings to sell to the buyers. That runs part and parcel into what I see is that right now, if you can find a place down here, and quite frankly, we're selling about half of our smaller income properties before they hit the MLS, right? So we sell them they're called exclusives or in-pocket listings. We know what they're worth based on the income approach to value, juxtaposed with looking at comparable sales in the neighborhood. They usually line up hand in hand. And so the buyer also knows what it's worth based on that information and the vendor knows. So we can do a deal directly without involving the MLS. We don't necessarily need to put it out there.
That's fantastic. That highlights the need for everybody to get your email address and sign up for your list so they can have access to exclusive deals as well.
Yeah, and I think they should really get used to the term principals only. Principals only. So if you're dealing with sort of real estate experts for income properties in different regions. So for example, like Zach Britton, who's part of this real estate channel, he's in the Tri-Cities, Kitchener, Waterloo. Emma Pace is up in Toronto doing the same thing, right? And there's others in other communities and other videos that you can watch. Those people don't want you bringing your Toronto real estate agent for a free lunch. We don't need that agent. In fact, that agent is going to increase our chances of the sale not going together because they don't know our market, right? And they don't know the nuances. We call them Windsor rules, right? So it's not to sort of steal business from other people. Rather, these are exclusive listings. They're not on the MLS. If they're on the MLS, bring your Toronto agent. If he walks on water, he or she, great, bring them. But when they're not on the MLS, you have to understand that we're trying to protect the vendor, right? And protecting the vendor means protecting their time. And it means not wasting their time with people that aren't going to buy because they make a stupid mistake, right? Like they want to use their mortgage broker in Toronto. He walks on water. Well, yeah, but if I had a dime every time somebody said that, and then that mortgage broker doesn't know the nuances of the Windsor market and doesn't get the mortgage done. Do you see where I'm going?
100%. I totally agree with you. It does make a difference. I have property in Chatham, Ontario, which I know it's nearby Windsor.
Yeah.
And whenever it comes down to financing, it's got to be somebody local. It's got to be somebody who understands the market. When I talk to people from Toronto, they're like, Chatham. You know, when I talk to people from down there and they're experts in the market, like, oh, no problem. That's a great property. That's a great area. You know, we can get you financing. So I've experienced it myself, the benefits of having local experts that have their teams already have, because you have your own relationships with mortgage brokers and team members that do financing. Yeah. So definitely going directly to the expert and relying on them to bring the information forth. I agree with that.
All right. Getting back to the chart. So if you look to the far right, guys, I'm going to put my mouse on it. If you look to the far right, this is December last year, the purple. And December this year is the yellow. And that's not just for Windsor, that's for Windsor and the county, our county's Essex County. So we call it Windsor Essex. That is a paltry 230 sales, right? For the city proper, so like LaSalle, Windsor, Tecumseh, Lakeshore, that would be about 160 of the 230 sales roughly. There's 2,000 real estate agents down here. There's a lot of real estate agents not eating this month. And I'm happy to say that we had a 7% market share. So that's one of the highest we've ever had.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah. So thank you to, I know there's some of you that are watching this that have bought off of us, and thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So anyway, out of those sales, a lot of the reason it's down is because there's a lack of listings again. And the same darn thing happened last year. December, January, people weren't listing their properties. And the reason we were able to still sell is because we've got a client base that doesn't really care when it is, right? They're on a mission. So we'll get listings because somebody wants to buy a business, or somebody wants to buy a bigger income property. So we're still churning it out, thankfully. But that residential listing is just plummeted. So that's why you see a lack of sales. Yeah.
How much do you think is based on seasonality, and how much do you think has to do with the market?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always a seasonal component, So that number is always down anyway, compared to, you know, sort of the mid-season, right? Like, look at the activity last year, guys. Actually, that's not indicative of a normal March, but this is your spring, right? April, May, June, July. That's where all your business is happening. August tends to really slow down because people are vacationing and they're getting their kids back into school and they don't want to move, right? So this number is often way down. It was just that 2021 was a red hot anomaly market, right? And I mean, look at this in November last year. That's November. That's insane.
That's crazy.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
It's just like, why? So anyway, basically this is kind of normal as far as that line goes, but usually that line's a little higher. It's usually up here, right? So the last 3 months are all down in sales from what I would consider an average year, but the angle of drop, that's your seasonal drop, certainly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, sales over last year, they're down 50%. Again, there's not a shortage of buyers anymore, at least from our perspective. And I've heard from our general manager at our brokerage that the buyers are coming back. This plays into what I've been saying for a few months now. When the snow melts, your opportunity to get the best prices is going to start plummeting. You're going to start competing against other buyers again, partially because of a shortage of listings and partially because the buyers are all waking up already. They're coming back, right? They know now that the interest rate isn't going to change too much now over the next year and a half, right? There might be one more 0.25% increase, and then they're saying nothing for the rest of the year. That's stability, right? And quite frankly, that's stability at an interest rate historically going back to 1975 that's still really low. The average for the last, since I was born, 1975, don't do the math because I'm by far the oldest person on
I
this
already
YouTube
did,
channel.
so too late.
I am the oldest person on this YouTube. I'm the only one with gray, man, on this whole YouTube channel. These guys are making me feel old.
Okay,
all of them.
Experience. You look
Including-
good. That's all that
Peter, our
matters.
producer, the young gun. I'm envious of his youth. Anyway, going back to 1975, the average interest rate's over 7%. And we're moaning and complaining about what right now? About 5.5.
It's easy to get used to the good things.
Yeah.
Hard when it changes around. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you have a tip or a few tips to buyers that are trying to get into the market in the next quarter, but don't have as much access to listings? What can buyers do that are looking to purchase something right now that would give them somewhat of an advantage?
Ooh. Well, I think it comes back, it's a bit circular because it does come back to, if they're looking for income properties, you mean specifically?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to what we were saying before at least with a group like ours, you're opening yourselves up to a whole bunch of exclusive sort of in-pocket listings that just are never going to hit the MLS. You guys are going to see my teammate Greg Mael in about another 5 or 10 minutes. Over half of Greg's sales. You will never see them on the MLS. Yeah. And I mean, they're big sales. He sold a 36-unit apartment building last year. He didn't need the MLS. Why does he need the MLS? Right? He's got way more buyers for that property than sellers, than properties to sell them. Well, I better keep jumping here or Peter's going to have my head because we're having a great conversation, but we're not moving through the deck. So I better get moving. So really quickly, I found this interesting. The average price is now down 18% year over year. So what's happening is we're seeing the effects finally starting to show up in the numbers year over year because January, February, and March last year were insane. They were insane. But December was too. Like the prices just started skyrocketing. They went up about 36%. And then they start coming back down. So I'm going to be really interested to see what year over year becomes over the next couple of months. That number is going to get bigger, guys. Yeah. So the average sale price is now coming down to $473,000, but it gets actually more interesting than that. Look where most of and this is what I was talking about before with the market activity being down. It says that new listings are only down 6%, but that's year over year. Right. What it's telling you is, December was slow last year too. December, January last year, we had no inventory. December, January this year, we still don't have any inventory. So hopefully it changes soon because again, you're going to get these bidding wars again if the listings don't start popping up. But this is where it gets interesting. So I told you there was 230 sales in Windsor Essex, right? Look at where the bulk of the sales are in Windsor right now. Right? Like right here. Like, so 70 of your, this is just Windsor, not Essex. Right? Okay. So 70 of your roughly 160 listings or sales rather, were sort of under $400,000. And that includes duplexes, guys, right? That includes some triplexes. They'll get over 400 sometimes. But boy, oh boy, if there ever was a time, if you're worried about the interest rate on your mortgage, blah, 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 do a 30-year amortization. Because at the end of the day, 2 out of the 3 factors right now, 2 out of the 3 factors, I went over here. 2 out of the 3 factors right now are really good in Windsor, right? Which is the prices are way down. The rents are still way up and going up more and more every month. Until recently, it was 1% a month. It's crazy, right? And we have basically an effective vacancy rate of 0. So you maybe 1 or 2% officially. So what ends up happening is you're able to buy under 400,000, right? You're able to rent out for top dollar. The only thing is you temporarily, if you listen to the chief economists of the big banks, for the next 2 to 3 years, you have interest rates that are going to be around, your 5.5% range, right? I said before to you, Adriana, this is a marathon. All the chief economists at these banks are saying that those interest rates on those mortgages are going to come back down over the next 2 to 3 years, which has then made us adjust to tell people to get 3-year terms on their mortgages, fixed rate mortgages, because we're just following the chief economists at the banks, right? Chief economists at the big banks, listen to them and cut out everybody else, and you'll get accurate information, because the chief economists at the big 5 banks in Canada have access to more data than anybody else. They are following our behavior patterns. They know how much credit card debt we have. They know if we're defaulting on any loans. They know what our loan to value is on our mortgages. They know if we're paying our mortgages. They know if we've got a job, what that job is, how much it pays. They know everything, right? So when you apply for your mortgage and stuff, they have this all in the database, and that's the information they're using, combined with these new economic models of the last 20, 30 years that people have won Nobel Prizes for, right? So they're using these algorithms that PhDs in economics have won, Nobel Prizes for, and they're applying their huge hoard of data to it. So when they're saying, hey, it's going to be 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, I believe them. If they're wrong, then nobody else has a chance of being right. Right? So, you can keep it really easy on yourself. Just follow the chief economists at the big banks. Don't listen to the sensationalism of social media or your one buddy that's struggling. That's called the one example logic flaw, right? Look at what the chief economists are saying at RBC, CIBC, TD. I like Benjamin Tal at CIBC. I find him to be the most accurate. But
Very good tip. I love that.
Yeah. So sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent, which I'm wont to do. But if you're doing that, then you understand that the interest rates up at 5.5% are temporary. They're only for the next 1,000 days at the most, and then they come back down. Well, if you've bought with cheap prices, I'll get this right eventually. Cheap prices, high rents, but you've got to take a bit of a higher interest rate for 3 years. Who cares? This is a marathon, right? You've got to think in terms of a 5-year window, 10-year window. That's how wealthy people think. They're not thinking about next week. They got a game plan, man. They got goals and strategies for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right?
I love that. We're speeding up acquisitions on our end for the same reason. I think there's going to be a massive, wealth. This is a wealth building time right now. Get those properties in. When the market goes back around, you're going to be laughing. A lot of equity is going to be added on. It's
a great time to invest right now for those reasons, All right, I better keep it moving here, Adriana. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit on you. So I've talked to everybody at length about sort of duplex, triplex, fourplex, sixplex. I've also talked about in the past houses where you add the additional dwelling unit, which I think if you love doing a little bit of, to use a crude term, fix and flip or fix and hold, I call it value add. But if you like doing a little bit of that, there is no better segment than taking a house, adding an additional dwelling unit. Stephanie Saunders on our real estate team focuses on that full time. And everybody that works with her is very happy, like almost to a T. Yeah. We had one guy that was unhappy. And then I pointed out, this is a true story. I pointed out he was still making $27,000 in equity. He was bummed out because his contractor was charging him a little bit more. I pointed out he's making a $27,000 gain in equity. And he was going to cash flow at $1,075 a month.
Wow.
And he was angry. He was bummed out. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, man? So we had one unhappy guy. And that's what he was sold. And everybody listening right now is like, man, I would have taken that. Yeah, that's what we're doing on a regular basis with that group. So with Greg, Greg Mayel, my teammate, he's been my teammate for about 18 years. Greg and I are, as you said, off air, Adriana, we're like a married couple. We are. We're like that peanut gallery on the Muppets. The two old guys up in the peanut gallery. So with Greg, it's funny because if there's any sort of segment that changes rapidly, it's what is profitable with the big stuff. And it changes all the time, right? Like Greg used to be the number one apartment building sales guy in town. Right now, that title means nothing because there's barely any apartment building selling. Partially because any apartment building selling, they want a 3% cap rate in Windsor. Like, come on, man. Or they've already been bought up by an institutional, like a real estate income trust. So Boardwalk, not Boardwalk anymore. They sold the Skyline. So Skyline, Timber Creek, they're all down here. My business partner, Sellerness. I'm creating about 200 beds out of old office buildings in the downtown core of Windsor with one of the institutionals in Toronto. So that's my bag. And actually, one of the 4 properties I'm doing with Greg, we're converting a smaller building from an old bar. We're converting it into a small cafe and 4 residential units. So yeah, Greg and I are investors as well. So Greg, I always say with Greg, we have to reinvent Greg faster than Madonna can reinvent herself, right? Over the years. I don't know if that reference is going to fly because she's getting really old, but so Greg right now, we had to ask ourselves, like we have to every few years, where is Greg's time best suited on the big stuff? And so it posits the question that I've put up here. Where's the greatest cash on cash returns on commercial real estate right now, right? Is it industrial, where you rent out to factories? Is it commercial plazas, mixed use, maybe a little bit of residential on top and retail or office space on the main floor? Is it swampland or Disney World, right? Like, what is it, right? And the answer is pseudo real estate. It's including real estate. And that's the sale of businesses. So when you're talking about commercial real estate right now, and we can look at these titles really quickly. These are just 2 titles that popped up in the last sort of 8 or 9 days, right? Read these titles, guys. Tsunami of small business owners planning to exit, putting $2 trillion on the line. 3 in 4 small business owners plan to exit their companies in the next decade. Next title, Canada's graying economy needs more employee ownership, right? Add retiring entrepreneurs to the list of economic existential threats posed by Canada's aging population. What Greg and I are seeing over and over again right now are baby boomers wanting to sell their businesses, and their only option is to sell it to their kids, and their kids don't want it, and they don't know what to do. And what you find, guys, is that if you're trying to buy, let's say, mixed use, like a commercial plaza. I'm going to use a particular example in my head, right? There's a commercial plaza that if you tried to buy it, you would buy it at a 3 or 4% capitalization rate, right? Garbage. Forget it. We won't sell it to you. We'll encourage you to find something else. But there's a very similar commercial plaza that also has a woodworking business within it. So it's almost like a light factory in the back, and there's a sales place in the front, and it takes up about 1/5 of the entire plaza, right? That guy is as old as dirt. It would love nothing more than to sell, right? He has nobody to sell the business to. It's been profitable for 30 years. He has no internet presence. So think of the value add of getting out there with some Facebook ads, Facebook Marketplace, paid Facebook ads, Google Click ads. Guy's not doing that. He's 100 years old, right? But he's also got a pizza joint that's been there forever. He's got a chiropractor who's been there forever, et cetera, et cetera. If you go to him and say, I want to buy your business and your building, Mr. Krankovich, you're not going to be buying the building at a 4 cap. You're going to be buying the plaza at an 8 cap, a 9 cap, a 10% capitalization rate, because the owner is not focused on maximizing the sale of his building. He's focusing on exiting and going down to Florida 6 months a year. That is not somebody who's trying to maximize the sale of the real estate. He's happy to sell the real estate for a reasonable price. So there, I'm gonna recommend a book. I apologize if I shouldn't be doing that. I'm listening to an audiobook right now that's excellent called Buy Then Build. Buy Then Build, and it's all about buying these companies that are already profitable from day one. You're cash flowing, right? But you've already figured out before you buy the place how you can take these low-hanging fruits to increase the revenues and increase the profits and, decrease the expenses, right? I mean, these old codgers, they're still advertising in print ads and magazines. Every single dollar of that is largely wasted. I can make way more money on a $200 Facebook ad campaign than a $2,000 magazine ad. Those are all savings that end up in your pocket. So not everybody is going to want to do a business on here, and I get it. But if you want to get into the larger real estate investments at the right price, learn to also essentially run a business, but run a business as an owner, not as an operator. You can hire the operator, and I'll show you an example of it right now. I mean, maybe Peter, if we can get my teammate
I was
Greg
just going to ask, we can get Greg in the house.
Yeah, is Greg around
That'd
here?
be fantastic.
There he is.
Hi, all.
I like Greg here because he's got even more gray hair than me. So it's the best. Thank you so much for making me feel slightly younger, Greg.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So Greg and I have been working together for 18 years down here in Windsor, Ontario. And Greg, if you can explain to people a little bit, what you're seeing with some of these businesses for sale and why you like them. And we are going to bring up that one on Hannah Street as an example right after you explain a couple things here and there, why you like them.
Well, yeah, through the last several months, I've come across several businesses that all had similar situations in common. The main thing being that they were owner-occupied, owner-operated, and they've been looking to get out of the business, to retire.
Yeah.
It just seems to be that right time in history, I guess, or never for these people to move on, and they're looking to cash out. And I think that is a new direction over the last several months. Rhys and I spoke a lot about it, looking to identify these opportunities. They're a little more effort. They're not you can't just put the money down on the table and expect it to grow. There's going to be some participation to develop it, to improve it.
How do you find some of these sellers, Greg?
How? Oh, just coming across. Just I don't know. To be honest, just in my day-to-day, whether I've had people interested, whether they come up for sale. A couple, that were for sale, actually through other realtors, but it was the same story basically, and I've had a couple buyers that have been shopping around, so I get to work on them and analyze them, I guess you could say.
So in this strategy, you're buying the business from the owner, and that comes with also the land or the building. It comes with the real estate attached to it. What's your suggestion for buyers here? Let's say I don't know anything about woodworking in Rhys's example here. How would I go about purchasing this business and building if I don't know much about the business of woodworking?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's going to take some effort to network, to investigate. Even the owners would have probably people they know that may be interested in running the business, right?
That's right.
Maybe an employee that's been around forever, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to investigate these people to make sure that they, are trustworthy and I guess motivated to, to implement your ideas.
Yeah, just to add to that, so with the right businesses, if you're buying the right businesses, your work is at the beginning, learning the basics of the trade, setting up the right sort of manager, and also implementing your value add strategies, right? But long term, it should be truly a near passive investment, just like owning the real estate is a near passive investment. And a great example of that is my real estate coach, or our team's real estate coach, rather. He used to run the number 2 real estate team in Canada, out of Ottawa. And he ended up retiring down in Miami. And of course, being a classic entrepreneur, he couldn't sit still. And he buys a chocolate/ice cream franchise.
Wow.
Right.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Well, and I've been there once, and he gave us my wife, being the chocoholic, gave us a ton of chocolate. Oh man, it was good stuff. So anyway, the point of bringing that up is when we first started using him, he was still in the early days of the business. And he was working about 4 hours on a Monday, going in, making sure his staff was okay, making sure they were set up for the week with their goals and strategies themselves, the manager of Kilwins. I said the name, shoot. By the time he sold it, this is after the pandemic and everything, by the time he sold it, he was only going there an hour a week on Mondays, and he was making over $400,000 US a year.
Wow.
Right. So taking the time to sort of learn how to be the owner of a business, not the operator, right? And Peter, if you can call up my spreadsheet, we'll go over an example really quickly that's available right now. There's Greg. Yeah, look at that chiseled job, bud. Greg is also excellent for power sales, guys. So you want to know Greg as the economy tightens, right? Greg, what are we doing? We've got 3 power sales going on right now, right? But only one's listed on the MLS. None of them are.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're working with clients on one, 2 of them, and the third one we're just going through the process of appraisal and building condition assessment to.
While all that. Sorry, Greg. While all that's happening, we're already lining up our buyer clients to buy the place, right? Yeah. There's a great example of what we were talking about before, Adrian. I mean, we need to know you exist. We need to know that you're our client when it comes to anything in Windsor. And then and we need to know your investment parameters, and then this stuff becomes available. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So the business for sale. So this is a pet crematorium. And I'm half laughing that, oh God, I'm going to use a pet crematorium as an example on the YouTube video, but there's no competition. The nearest competition for cremating your pets when they pass away, or humane society animals or veterinarian animals. This is the only one south of the GTA, south of the Toronto area. So they take in all the pets that pass away from all of southwestern Ontario, right? And so the real estate ends up, it's a fairly sizable building. The real estate ends up being worth about $650,000 conservatively. Like you could convince an appraiser to go up to $750,000, right? And they wouldn't bat an eyelid. But we're saying, for the sake of argument, $650,000. And the equipment in there, you could resell it for a good $50,000, no problem. Again, very safe numbers. That's already 700,000. Listing price is 999. So now you're getting that business. Let's say Greg negotiates, I don't know, at 900,000. Greg's at 10% off. There's no guarantees, guys. We don't know, but let's just say it's 10% off, 900,000. That means you're buying the actual business for $200,000. Look at the annual profit. That's a 71% cash on cash return on your money on the business per year, right? Now, in this case, it's owner operator, like Greg mentioned before. Okay, Greg, what's a manager going to cost a year? I think I know the number, but I want to hear what you think the number is. And guys, I don't know. I'm risking it here. I don't know what Greg's going to say.
Yeah, I think in and around 60, I think would be
I said 55,000. There you go. All right, let's go with Greg's number. Let's go high. So let's go with 60,000. You're still profiting $78,000 a year. And that's not on top. That's on top of the 5% in property value increase a year on your building, right? Canadian historical average is 5% a year. So if it's worth 650,000, you're making $32,500 a year in property appreciation. Plus you're making over 78,000 on the business. Plus, guess what? We're not the only ones that know that we're in trouble in this country because all the baby boomers are retiring, 300,000 of them last year. The Business Development Bank of Canada knows that. The Business Development Bank of Canada's job is not just to profit. It's to make sure that people stay employed. That is their actual main mandate, is employment in Canada, right? So there's a serious problem of losing employment on these small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, right? So the BDC is going to be very happy to give you a loan, or even the EDC right now has a special loan, I think, going on for another few months. They're very happy to give you money to keep these baby boomers' businesses going, right? So you're going to get a mortgage on the property, and you're going to get a nice sweetheart loan for the business. Your loan to value is going to be a lot higher than, say, 65% on a mortgage. Overall, you're going to be in really good shape, especially with a proven business like this. How long have they been around, Greg? Like 30 years there?
To be honest, I can't recall.
They've been doing this for a long time, like since I can remember. And it's in a nice area of town. You know, again, this is just a great example of what we can do with business sales. And it's not for everybody. And you're going to go, oh my God, I'm in Toronto and this cat wants me to buy a business down in Windsor, right? But the reality is that with those kinds of numbers, it's worth your time learning. That book, again, that will give you a nice summary on how to do this, is called Buy Then Build, right? And then you can take advantage of these prices and these cash on cash returns. I can't give you like cash on cash return of 70% on an apartment building. I can get you a 5% cash on cash return. Greg can get you 5% cash on cash return. You'll get your money back in 20 years. Come on.
I do love this
strategy.
I have a couple questions. So in terms of qualifying for this, I don't know anything about buying like a business like this. Are we doing conventional financing? How do we qualify commercial versus on the residential side?
Yeah, we don't have time to get into all those details, but on something like this, it would probably be a combination of the Business Development Bank of Canada and one of the big 5 banks, or alternatively, the BDC might just cover all of it. It's a case-by-case basis. That's the easiest way to explain it. We, like Greg and I, know who to go to and where to go, etc. Yeah. What are you doing? Playing video games there, Greg?
Sorry?
You playing video games there?
No, that was Roomba. Roomba.
Oh, the vacuum?
Yeah.
Get out of here, Roomba. Yeah, but it's just, it would largely start, the keystone in your financing would be the Business Development Bank of Canada 9 times out of 10. And bear in mind too, a lot of these vendors that have made their money and want to exit, they're happy to hold back a second mortgage as a vendor take back mortgage. It's very common on these, very common. In fact, when Greg and I list properties and businesses for sale, like we've got a health club right now, again, listed exclusively, not on the MLS. You know, when those vendors say, oh, I'm not holding any paper, it's like, do you really want to sell? right? Nobody's got your price. Like they're going to need help to buy your place, right? You're going to have to hold paper. So
Love it.
yeah. So if anybody's got any other questions about that, again, our contact information is below. You can go to thevanguardteam.com and you can find Greg's contact information if you want to skip me. Totally up to you guys. And from here, Greg, I'm going to wrap up just to show one of Steve Girouge's opportunities right now. You can take off, man, and get back to your Roomba.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining, Greg.
See you, Greg, man.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Peter, if I could just pull up the last two slides here. So this is Steve Girouge. You guys have seen him before. He's proof positive that they give out MBAs to everybody. You can see his MBA degree right here. I'm joking. I went to law school. I'm a lawyer, right? So we always have to slag the MBAs. It's kind of like it's in your blood. You always have to slag the MBAs. So Steve is the #1 real estate agent in Windsor for 2-unit to 6-unit sales. In fact, yesterday at the Brokerages Awards banquet, he finished 3rd. Behind 2 other rock stars. And yeah, he's a great salesperson and he does it with sales acumen. His clients are diehard fans. Like they're just repeat clients. They just keep going with them. Yeah. I don't get people calling me up going, I hate Steve because he'll fight with you like crazy if you want to buy the wrong place. Like all my agents will a lot of times they'll involve me. Like during the Stupids about a year ago, I had to get on the phone with a lot of people and go like, this is not going to last. Like, don't buy it. Just wait. Like we had to do that with a half dozen people. They were just going to kill themselves. They'd be destroyed right now.
That shows a lot of integrity.
Well, but again, we have a vested interest. We want to see you get wealthy. We don't care about one commission. We want to see you get wealthy because then we get multiple commissions over the next 15, 20 years. So Steve right now has a very average duplex. And I love showing average, especially if you're considering Windsor for the first time. So it's a duplex. It's an average duplex. They're both main floor units, front and back. Our client has owned it for like 13, 14 years, and he's retiring, right? I sold him a whole bunch of places back in the day. He's made his money. He's going to take his millions. He's going to buy a camper van, and he's gone. He says, I'll probably be back in a couple of years, right? I had another guy who's a literal ditch digger with a backhoe, same sort of thing over the last 15 years. And he coasted for the last 7 of them, didn't buy anything. And then he resold all of his income properties, freed up $7 million after taxes, bought a house on the lake up around Peterborough. He's gone. Yeah. So those are very common. I mean, the guy that owns this one, he's a line worker. Well, he's a retired line worker from one of the local automotive factories. They're not crazy backgrounds. They just know how to save up just enough money to get that first place, and then it multiplies over time. Why I wanted to show you guys this is because the prices have dropped. So we know what you can buy this for, assuming an 80% loan to value mortgage, 30-year amortization, and assuming very, very average rents, right? That's about city average right now for 2 units. Look at your coverage ratio. Right? Banks are gunning for a 1.2 coverage ratio, which means you've got 20% more coming in than you need to pay out. Right? You're at a 1.73. You almost have double the money coming in you need. So tell me what's a safe investment? That's a safe investment, 1.73. And the cash flow per month is about $1,000. I think it's just over $1,000 off the top of my head. It's just a meat and potatoes investment property that you're going to get for what, like $400,000, I'm guessing, off the top of my head. I don't know, but it'll be about that. So there you go. That's an example of what's available right now. Steve just listed it like 2 days ago.
Awesome. Good to know. There's properties to buy. There's opportunities out there right now too.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all. If we stay on any longer, Adriana, our producers
we're going to get kicked out.
We're going to get the cane, right? We're going to get the cane. We'll get the Apollo. That's it. If anybody wants to get a hold of us, there's the contact information. You can kind of see our website there in the email address, thevanguardteam.com. You can read about us more there and contact us and rock and roll. And we'll build up your portfolios, build up your wealth over time.
Amazing, Rhys. Thank you so much. We touched on so many different topics. I really appreciate meeting you today and sitting down with Greg too. Reach out to Rhys and his team, and he has a ton of information opportunities for you down in Windsor. My name again is Adriana Ostapenko. If you'd like to follow me on socials, Adriana Ostapenko on IG and Facebook, and my YouTube channel too. Have a wonderful day. Until next time in the Canadian Real Estate Channel.
Pleasure, Adriana.